Oh, hey guys. I didn't see you pull up. Welcome to the homestead. Just kicking it here in my hammock with my cat Rosie. But you know what? I'm going to get to work here pretty soon. I'm going to shoot some videos all about video camera functionality, different camera settings that you'll need to use while out in the field. So what all those buttons and what all those menu functions mean on the cameras that we have, plus some tools that you might be able to use at home. So let's go ahead and get started. What do you think, Rosie? Should we? Yeah, let's do it. So this is Filmicpro. You can find it for Android or iOS. The basic kit is $15 for the app, but you get a lot with it. And there's some other add-on kits that you can get that expand the particular features here. So hit the menu button here, settings. We've got several different settings. Our first stop is resolution. There are different aspect ratios that are unlocked with the cinematographer's kit. I only have 16:9, but that's basically what we do a lot of shooting in anyway. I mean, that's the standard format for television, anything like that. So if you want something that's a little bit more cinematic, or say a 1:1 for Instagram, they have those available. But the HD quality, so this is image resolution. If I click on that, I can, in this particular camera, I can go up to 4K. It's not necessary for today. 1080p is our standard 1920 by 1080 screen resolution, so that's good. And I can also drop it down if I'm just doing something quick and dirty for YouTube. I don't want a smaller resolution to conserve file size, but we'll leave it on 1080. We have different qualities like standard, economy. I'm going to leave it on filmic quality. And then we're going to leave it on AVC, that's the video codec. We could go to a high economy video codec, but we'll just leave it on that. We don't want to shoot in HDR. We're just going to be in normal HD quality here. So if we back out, we just hit anywhere on the screen, it backs out. We're going to go into frame rate. We can select our frame rate. Right now we're at 24 frames per second. That's the industry standard for everything film production. I don't want to get too much into the engineering of it, why it arrived at 24 frames per second, but that's the standard. So 24 individual frames are captured per second. You know, and I can change that. I can go up to 25, 26. I can tune it in. Now, if I go to something like this all the way up to the top, 240 frames per second, but playback speed 24 frames per second. If I have 24 and I'm playing back at 24, that's normal motion. If I am at a high frame rate and then I plan to play it back at a normal frame rate, that is what yields slow motion. So for right now, we're just going to go 24, but you can mess around if you get this. You can mess around with that and playback. If we wanted to shoot 30 frames per second for playback at 30 frames per second, we could do that. But let's leave it at 24 for 24. If we were doing time-lapse, we can do that as well here, but that's an added function here. So go back to standard. Let's go back here. Let's go to audio. And so it's right now, it's just on the camera microphone. I don't have an external microphone connected to my phone here. But my sampling rate, I would recommend 44.1 or 48. Those are the only two, but those are standard sampling frequencies there. And then we don't have any stabilization functions. Let's check hardware. Okay, so if you did have a camera stabilization mechanism, I do have one, but it's not any of those brands. It's a knockoff brand. So it won't really, the Filmicpro app won't communicate with that. Sometimes you can have a, if you had the Zhiyun Smooth 4, your Filmicpro app and phone could communicate with the stabilizer, and all kinds of features are unlocked there. I think that's about it as far as the standard basic stuff for preparing to shoot. So let's go out here and we'll go back to some of the other functions. This is the record button there. This is playback, so that's standard. If I want to change my audio recording levels, I tap and hold there. And you can see this little tiny bar down here to lower my levels. So right now they're all the way off. So you can see this tiny little white bar there is all the way over to the left. But if I raise them up, and then I can see my audio levels here. And this is measured in decibels. So So right now it looks like I'm pulling negative 25 dB, so I'm absolutely okay. There's no danger of clipping there. Typically, I like to try to get audio between negative 20 and negative 12 dB. That's usually the sweet spot for recording audio in the field. There's a lot you can do with that. You just definitely don't want to go really over, negative 6 dB, because then you're really in the danger zone. You're getting close to 0, and 0 means that you've clipped or you've over-modulated. So, but that's a good, comfortable audio level there. So again, you just kind of see it's pretty fine control, but you have to just see that little hash mark there that's below the counter, and you can drag it to the left and to the right. These are our image curves. So these are our scopes that show us colors and things like that. And it's not really necessary. That's sort of an advanced function. In a later class, we might start getting into video scopes, like the waveform, the vector scope, histograms, stuff like that. They're just different measurements of the image in terms of exposure and color. But we're going to just go by eye here. Okay, folks, just getting back to some other functions here on the Filmicpro. We're going to talk about the auto focus and auto exposure. If you can see, it's kind of hard to see, but there's a little like square that's here. Let's see if I make it red. If you can see it there. Yeah, you can see it. And so that is your focus. So right now, because I've locked it in, it's focused on the hammock. And if I move it and unlock it and then reset it, I can focus on different things in the image, even though they're very different distances from camera. Right now, this lens in this particular phone has, I don't know what it is, but it has a really deep focus. So everything is kind of in focus. The way I can check that is up here in this upper band. They have something called focus peaking, FP. If I hit that, everything kind of goes a funky green color. So basically anything that's in focus is outlined in that green. So you can tell that this is an image that has real deep focus. So I'm not really too stressed out about where I'm focused in the image. So I'll go ahead and leave that unlocked. The circle here, let me go ahead and hit that so it turns red. You can see it. That's exposure. So if I put it here on the sort of shaded part of the hammock, and I hit that, that's exposing for that. If I put it up here in this sort of darkness, you can see how the image kind of brightened a little bit. And it's trying to expose for the shadows. Right now I'm just going to leave it on the hammock and leave it there. And so those are the auto functions there, and if I wanted to lock that in, I could. Now, if I wanted to have control over focus, again, this is kind of a little bit difficult to see, but I can change my focus here. So I can throw this focus out of image or this image out of focus if I want to, using this dial here. So you can see right there, and it automatically engages the focus peaking. So right now there's nothing in focus, as you can see in the image. But say I had something in the foreground. Yeah, that's going to give some good lines there. So if I turn on my focus stuff again and I decide to focus to where that camera case is in focus, and then my background is out of focus, and then vice versa, you can see how my background's in focus and my foreground object is out of focus. So lots of different things you can do with manual focus there. And what I'm going to do is just sort of move that out of the image. So we're back to our image here. Now this one has to do with auto exposure. So if you really want to do some creative exposure techniques, so you want that to be really dark, or say there's an object in the foreground, or there's somebody sitting there and they're wearing some reflective clothing, white t-shirt or whatever, and so you need to close your aperture down a little bit. What it's doing is it's adjusting the ISO, and that's that tiny little number right there. It's hard to see. Right now we have about 100 ISO, and that's yielding an image that looks relatively well exposed. Now if I hit this button here, I can change my shutter speed. Nope, that's locking that. So if I lock that, now I'm changing my shutter speed, and we're going to get into a separate shutter speed video to show you basically what that is. And I have also scoured a video off YouTube that kind of explains the concept of shutter speed. So all of those things mean that I can do a lot of really cool manual stuff. And the last bit of manual stuff here that is really essential is this image looks really green. It just looks really off. So if we hit this sort of Venn diagram color icon down here, these are our color temperatures. And so right now, because this is in the shade, I'm going to choose daylight but cloudy conditions. And you see if I click out of that, it's giving me something that looks a little bit more normal and neutral, being in the shade like that. Now, that means the direct sunlight in the background is going to go a little bit warmer, but that's okay because that's sort of how it feels out here today. And we'll get a little bit into color temperature down the road, but basically every light that's produced, whether it be natural or artificial, has a place on the visible light spectrum or the color spectrum. So red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, Roy G. Biv. And so normal sunny daylight is in the blue range. It's roughly 5,600 degree Kelvin. Tungsten light that we produce with incandescent light bulbs or some of the lights in the equipment room, they're going to be tungsten, so they're going to be in the yellow-orange area, or 3,200 degree Kelvin. The shade is usually a little bit higher, so the shade can be anywhere from like 8,000. But actually, our color temperature here is not quite. Our color temperature is 4765 Kelvin. So let's see if I can actually increase the color temperature manually. Boy, it's windy out here today, folks. I'm sorry if there's a lot of wind noise. I don't have my windscreen out here with me today. Did not anticipate a windy day. But I can change my color temperature. I can make this really blue or really orange. You see the results there. And then they also add the green magenta tint on this side. So right now it's a very magenta image. So if I place that somewhere in the middle, I don't want something to be too green or too magenta. You see that I have something that looks fairly normal and natural there. So those are the basics. If I want to record, then I can record. And my counter will start running there. Record a nice image. I could hop into that hammock. That sounds pretty good right about now, but I've got work to do, and as soon as I get in that hammock, I probably don't feel like doing work. Alright, so we can stop that function there, and we can play it back if we wanted to, but we no need to do that. So that's it for Filmicpro. This is a really nice tool, and it's actually really good to demonstrate some of the video concepts that are, inherent to all video cameras. So kind of a cool lesson baked into this. If you're thinking about purchasing this and you want to consult with me further to make sure it's not going to be a waste of your money, then do that. They also have an app that they recommend you download. It's free before you download Filmicpro, and what it does is it analyzes your phone to see if your phone is going to be able to work with Filmicpro. So I forget what that app is called, but if you search for Filmicpro, it's usually the second one listed, and it's pretty cool. So that's it for this, and I'll see you in the next video.